Welcome to the Experience Prince George's 2020 Virtual Annual Outlook Marketing Meeting. I am Linda Westgate, General Manager here at the hotel at the University of Maryland and Board Chair for Experience Prince George's. This time last year, we were able to gather live and network in person, which we hope to do again soon. The tourism and hospitality industry has been heavily impacted by the pandemic. However, despite the odds, Experience Prince George's continues to persevere. I would like to thank the Board of Directors for their continued support and partnership. These have been challenging times for all of us, but we will continue to get through it together. At this time, we will share a video and message from County Executive Angela Alsobrooks, followed by insight and overview by Leslie Whitlow Graves, President and CEO of Experience Prince George's.
Discover the freedom of our open spaces, new spots to drop a line or float away. Discover new pathways to explore with your family while you uncover our shared history. Discover fantastic wines to enjoy with friends or shop for the people you love. Discover Lady Luck while you cheer your heart out. Discover you can fly and be a child again. Discover and spread your wings in a space where you can grow. Find new horizons with family and friends to gather and enjoy in the smiles, laughter, and wonder that make us Prince George's proud.
Good morning and welcome to the 2020 Experience Prince George's Marketing Outlook meeting. We're so excited to speak with you today about the ongoing marketing initiatives developed by Experience Prince George's. I would like to acknowledge our Board of Directors for Experience Prince George's, including Board Chair Linda Westgate, who's the General Manager of the hotel at the University of Maryland. Thank you to each of you for the work you're doing to keep the momentum and interest of our county on people's minds during what has been a challenging year for us and our region. I also want to thank Leslie Graves, the President and CEO of Experience Prince George's, and her dedicated team who have done a yeoman's job to ensure Prince George's County remains visible while also ensuring that businesses within the tourism and hospitality sector are provided with the resources needed to continue operating during the pandemic. Over the past 7 months, COVID-19 has impacted every aspect of our lives. This pandemic has caused disruptions to our accommodations and attractions, to our retail and restaurant sector, and even to our beloved sports sector. Prince George's County has been the economic engine of our state, creating more jobs in the last 5 years than any other jurisdiction. However, when this pandemic hit in March, that growth was erased in a matter of weeks. That's why this meeting and the work of our tourism sector is absolutely critical, because we must push forward to reignite our economy and position us to emerge from this pandemic stronger than we've ever been before. To assist with this goal, Experience Prince George's has recently launched a new tourism campaign aimed at visitors from New York to Virginia. This new campaign, which will be revealed later in the presentation, highlights our county's many assets that make our destination one of the best gateways in the region, while showcasing some of the many reasons why we are Prince George's proud. Tourism is essential for our county, and Experience Prince George's continues to work hard to put our name on the map of places to explore, experience, and expand. Despite the difficulties we faced this year, our communities have come together, businesses have supported one another, and each and every one of you have shown your courage, patience, and willingness to stand together for our county, the crown jewel of Maryland. We have truly shown that we are strong and resilient, and that there is absolutely no one like a Prince Georgian. As we look ahead, please know that we are here to support you and that we will get through this together.
Hi, I'm Leslie Whitlow Graves. Thank you, Chairman Westgate and County Executive Alsobrooks, for your support, leadership, and guidance during these unprecedented times. When we were all together a year ago at Topgolf, none of us could have contemplated where we'd be today in a pandemic, but it's happened. Before the pandemic, we were excited to welcome a number of large meetings and convention groups to the county. In fact, We anticipated a banner year with record occupancy rates at many of our properties. Even though live meetings were shifted to virtual, we continued to stay engaged by participating in virtual trade shows and industry webinars. Then things changed, and we all had to stop and reconsider our futures and what we would do in response. ExPGC Prince George's took immediate steps to support our members. Our homepage became a resource for businesses and travelers. The executive orders of the state and the county, the CDC information, and updates from the county health officer were all placed on the website. We set up a fabulous Foodies to Go program, a one-stop look at every restaurant in the county that had curbside pickup. We initiated a buy local program in partnership with the Chamber of Prince George's County and the Economic Development Corporation. This gave an opportunity for our residents to purchase from our local retailers. We gathered all the health and safety plans from our members as they began to reopen their doors, so visitors were aware of what the options were in the county. ExPGC Prince George's also became the point of contact for businesses who needed to understand where they fit in the executive order and what applied to them. Since day one of this pandemic, ExPGC Prince George's has represented our members, participating in the county's weekly task force meetings, and any opportunities we can to provide advocacy and service, we have done so. We work with the county leadership to design a process to expedite permitting for restaurants when they wanted outdoor seating. We sit on the county's recovery task force advocating for resources, investments in the hospitality industry. When we first began, that was all we could do, react. But now that we've had some time, we know we have to be proactive. And we began to market and promote the county to our residents and to visitors in the last few months. Announced in an industry press release in June, we released a Discover Your Own Backyard campaign with ads on Spotify, Facebook, and Washington.org. Let's take a look at the video. We held customer events on Zoom and participated on a national panel with other destination marketing organizations to discuss diversity, cultural disparities, and the state of the industry. ExPGC Prince George's supported the Black Lives Matter movement by using our social media platforms and newsletters as a voice for change. ExPGC put a spotlight on thousands of businesses during Black Business Awareness Month, and we participated in the Maryland Underground Railroad. As restrictions lifted and the county continues to reopen, ExPGC Prince George's selected MDB Communications to create an exciting message about Prince George's County and why right now, right here, is where you should come visit, explore, and enjoy. Let's take a look at how that campaign was developed.
As we approach the opportunity of advertising for Prince George's County, it's exciting to think of all the wonderful things we have to offer people. So, how do we encourage them to visit, to experience what we have? Especially during this unprecedented time. People have been afraid to go anywhere for many months. How do we encourage them to wade into this new normal safely? People are tired of being cooped up, still cautious, but tired. How do we get people to come here instead of just staying put? What's the link? What have we been told since the outbreak of COVID began? What's the one thing we've heard over and over again? Practice social distancing. Unfortunately, for many people, that is translated to just staying home. They work from home, they only go out for essentials, and they practice social distancing, an important thing to do. But what if we use these very same words, the words we know all too well, but turn them into an invitation? What if we create a new, cathartic kind of mantra that frees people to safely open the door to adventure? Here's how. what if we make social distancing a verb? And here is Prince George's County. And say, hey, instead of practicing social distancing where you are, social distance here in one of our beautiful vineyards. Social distance here on one of our extraordinary golf courses. Social distance here as you walk down a picturesque trail in the woods. And social distance here at National Harbor. In fact, you can social distance here in lots of places that are open in Prince George's County. Social distance here gives people permission to leave their homes safely and social distance elsewhere, in a place that offers much more than the isolation of the same four walls. Social distance here in Prince George's County. It's a way to invite people to wade, not leap, into the new now. And as long as we have to practice social distancing, why not stay 6 feet apart in places that are extraordinarily beautiful? Prince George's County, social distance here.
We are very excited about the Social Distance Here campaign, and we ask you all to use the hashtag in your social media posts for the rest of the year. There will be more to come for 2021. The campaign, just so you know, will be running in the dry markets of New York, Philadelphia, New Jersey, Baltimore, Delaware, and Richmond. We created a brand ambassador program comprised of county influencers to highlight and showcase our county assets and businesses on our social media platforms. And one more thing, in an effort to support our members, we've extended our member payment dues through December 31st. If you're a new member or interested in membership, we have a trial that will also take you through December 31st. So take a look at our website, experienceprincegeorges.com, membership tab. Thank you for being with us today. We know your time is valuable, and I look forward to talking with each of you during the Q&A immediately following this session. If you have any questions, please remember to put them in the chat. And don't forget, social distance here. Thank you for coming.
Welcome to the new normal. I would much rather be with you all, riding around Bladensburg Park, visiting the Patuxent Wildlife Refuge, getting scared to death at Six Flags America, enjoying shopping, dining, and the wheel at National Harbor, the great views at the Colonial Farm Museum. But this is the way it is right now. Prince George's County is a great blend of urban, rural, and a cultural destination that makes it such a great sell for visitors to be able to come and visit. And I can assure you, I'd rather be there than here in front of a screen trying to talk to you. I'm Liz Fitzsimmons. I'm the Managing Director for Tourism and Film in the Department of Commerce, and also the Executive Director of the Maryland Tourism Development Board. I'd like to thank Rick Howarth for all of his help over the years serving on the board, and welcome Juan Carlos Linares from Tanger Outlets, who has just recently joined the board. Welcome aboard, Juan. The Maryland Office of Tourism and the Maryland Tourism Development Board, we share a common mission. We stimulate and support Maryland's thriving tourism economy with the goal of creating a great place for all Marylanders to live, work, and play, and to have a great place for visitors to come. I'd like to take you on a little road trip through Maryland. Our vision states a thriving tourism economy, and we know right now that hasn't been the truth. I was looking through our FY 2020 numbers, and in December, from July 1 through December 31st, our tourism tax revenue, sales, and use taxes were up 6%, actually 6.7%. So 7% when you round up. In January, they were up 11%. At the end of April, they were down 43%. By the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, they were still down, but they were down 14%. And that really does talk to the resiliency of our industry. Maryland is on a prime location on the Mid-Atlantic corridor, right next to 6 out of 10 of the richest counties in the United States. And that bodes well for our recovery. But first, I want to take you back to spring of 2019. The Maryland Office of Tourism launched its Open For It campaign. That was to better align with the governor's Open for Business campaign and really being able to take those two concepts of open and bring them together as one unified marketing message. We really leaned into the open concept. The For It was great, but we really felt that open really said it all. As I said earlier, people are open for just about anything on a vacation, and we felt that open really did just encompass everything. We had no idea how relevant that term would become in the next few months. Back in March, like many tourism entities in Maryland, as Prince George's County did across the country and across the world, we had to go silent on our marketing. We knew we couldn't market when no one could be able to travel. During that time, we looked at our website, looked at all those social media tools that we had, and wanted to figure out how we could keep customers engaged and interested in Maryland. And we built virtual tours of Maryland with our partners who already had virtual tours going. We brought them to light. Who would have ever thought as tourism entities we would be promoting Watch Us From Home? But we knew that would keep them engaged. And then we also built some kind of fun things to do, things such as word searches and bingo cards, and all with a Maryland theme. And it was really great to see our PR staff being interviewed by stations in DC and in Baltimore, talking about, with their kids in the room, how these tools were not only great to keep the kids out of the boredom phase, but also to give them some kind of educational context. And that was really a lot of fun. All the while, we were looking at consumer and traveler research to start crafting our new marketing messages. We knew none of us could come back into the market the same way we left it in the fall of 2019. Our research showed that people were skittish, that travel wasn't, that there were certain promises that needed to be made. People needed to feel comfortable traveling. They needed to know that it was safe. They were going to feel more comfortable in their car. They were going to feel more comfortable out of doors than they would indoors. And we saw that time and time again. Our parks have hit capacity much quicker than they ever have. In July of 2020, we already surpassed the state parks visitation of all of 2019. So we knew all those things were going to be playing into the consumer's travel decisions. And we wanted to build spots that worked towards that. We looked at different things. We were in the open brand, and we call this our soft launch because we really knew, again, we wanted to make sure that we were sending the right message at a time when people needed to hear it the right way. So we went out into the market with this very simple statement: when you're open for travel, we're open for you.
Maryland, we will be open. Open for new memories. And open for connections. We look forward to seeing you. When you're open for travel, we'll be open for you.
We also went old school and added a toll-free number to the spots. It's 833, open for you. We knew that people wanted to have more information than they might be able to get from a website. And a website can't answer all the questions. Many of the questions dealt with really relevant items to those consumers. Like, I want to go visit this. Is it open? If I come to your state, do I have to quarantine? We had people who called and said, if I go to your state, do I have to quarantine when I go back to my state? With those, we would say, I think you need to call your state because we don't know that answer. But Maryland never went into a quarantine, I'm just saying. And by Labor Day, we opened, that human connection is so important right now. So by Labor Day, we opened up our welcome centers. They're on all sorts of different truncated schedules, primarily due to staffing. But what we're hearing from our welcome centers is that they're busy. People are coming to them with questions. It's a lot different than it's been before. The welcome centers, they're on the other side of plexiglass. They gather all the materials for our customers, but they're still interacting with our customers, and our customers are happy to see them there. And we continue to work. We worked with our partners on our second annual International Underground Railroad Month in September. This showcases and acknowledges the significance of the Underground Railroad and all those involved for its contribution to the eradication of slavery in the United States, and as a cornerstone for the more comprehensive civil rights movement that followed. It honors the inspiring efforts of the people from around the world who have committed themselves to document, interpret, and share with the public the Underground Railroad. One of the things that we say in our office is that we are the most powerful Underground Railroad storytelling destination in the world. And we can back that up with having the freedom fighters, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Henry Garnet, William Still and his family. And then we know that there are a lot of other sites in Prince George's County that have a connection to the Underground Railroad. I encourage you to authenticate those sites through the National Park Service's Network to Freedom. If you feel that those sites have that connection to the Underground Railroad, our team at the Maryland Office of Tourism can help you connect with those folks and help bring those resources to bear on that very important part of our story. I was asked to share with you the resources that the Maryland Office of Tourism has to help with your business marketing. And I say this all the time, and I truly mean it. We are from the government, and we do want to help. First piece of homework is this: go to visitmaryland.org. If you haven't been there, go there. If this was not virtual, I would ask you all to raise your hands and let me know how many of you have visited the visitmaryland.org site. And I would ask that you let us know if you had visited it. But here's the important part of that. 2.5 million visitors come to our site annually. Even during COVID, we have seen year over year increases in visitation. Just recently, our last visitation numbers were up 13%. This is a great place for you to make sure that your marketing message is out there. First, make sure that your business is listed. If it isn't, we will talk about that in a little bit, but get it to our office so we can get it listed. If you have events, make sure those are listed. And also take a look at what you're saying about yourself. In the business listings and an event listing, I often see listings, that are more informative than inspirational, and we need to blend those together, such as welcome to our 4,000 square foot facility, housing the greatest repository of this portion of time. I don't think that that's really inspirational. Maybe it's our facility showcases the conflict of this with that and has artifacts that are related to, and maybe use your proximity to something else. And we're next door to College Park, those types of things. And in your events, take those words and use them carefully, because, fun for the whole family. I'm going to tell you, there's not an event in Maryland that isn't fun for the whole family, right? So maybe instead of using fun for the whole family, aerobatics, screaming across the sky, those types of things. And then the second is go to industry.visitmaryland.org. That's our business to business site. Please go there. Inside of that is everything from our calendar of events of trade shows that we attend. For many of those, we bring along our partners. And we know that trade shows aren't really happening now, but there are some that are on the horizon. ABA has changed their date from January to June of 2021. And that's a great place to find out what is still going on. And perhaps most importantly, for someone who loves numbers, is the research. There's our proprietary research from Tourism Economics, DK Shiflett, STARS reports for occupancy. But during this time of COVID, research giants such as Tourism Economics, who I just mentioned, Destination Analysts, Longwoods, have been doing weekly roundups of consumer and traveler insights and being able to track how the customer is now looking at travel through those kind of ebbs and flows. And the good news is there are people who are getting ready to travel. And perhaps most importantly is the OTD checklist. This handy list details all of the staff, all of our contact information, and how we can help you with to market your business. I do want to share with you one last ask. On Monday, we'll be launching a new deals portal to support Open for the Holidays. Research is showing that nearly 50% of travelers are ready to travel for the holiday. And the one place that they're going to go is visit with friends and family. This is an outgrowth of a campaign that we did for the last 2 holiday seasons that was called Home for the Holidays, that really pointed people to encourage their friends and family, if they were coming to visit them, to stay in a hotel rather than sleep on their couch, and then encourage those who were coming to visit to stay in a hotel and not sleep on their friends and family's couches. It was really successful. A $50,000 ad buy through a platform that we use generated $500,000 in room revenue. So we're taking that concept, because we know tourism development is community development, and all of us have been really hurt during this time. So we're opening it up to all industry sectors to encourage customers and friends and family in Maryland and those that are coming in from Maryland to purchase a gift certificate, to stay in a hotel, dine in a restaurant, go shopping, and to encourage them with some level of incentive. We're not asking for really expensive or hard, but perhaps, if someone buys a $25 gift certificate, it has a value of $30. Maybe it's given that special parking space really close to a store. Be creative, be inventive, because we're going to be pushing this out through our social media channels, through paid advertising, and we really want to help bring in that fourth quarter revenue and provide that opportunity for our tourism partners. And I do want to thank the team at Prince George's County for being open for partnerships, for being open to working with us, and to be open to having us work with you. We really want to help. My contact information is liz.fitzsimmons@maryland.gov. Right, maryland.gov. It's probably the best way to get in touch with me these days, but I know that the team at Experience Prince George's, they have all my numbers. I can't get away, and I don't want to, and I'm happy to help. And thank you for being open for this presentation today. I hope to see y'all real soon.
Hi, my name is Michael Dominguez, and I'm the president and CEO of Associated Luxury Hotels International. I was asked to speak to you today at the Marketing Outlook Forum to really talk about what's going on in the broader industry as far as our COVID-19 recovery and what that may look like. I have been actively involved in this recovery process for about the last 5 to 6 months. I currently co-chair the EIC, the Event Industry Council. They have a task force they've put together that is on the COVID recovery and what that would look like for us moving forward. A couple of things to talk about, where we are today and what that looks like. We're now hearing of spiking cases in Europe. You're hearing of spiking cases specifically in the Midwest here in the United States. I think it's important to know, and something I stress weekly is that there needs to be context around these numbers. Although the cases are growing, our testing has grown tremendously, where we are testing over 1 million people a day in the United States. And from perspective, our case growth over the last couple of weeks, when we hear in the news about cases growing, those cases have grown at about 4.3%, while our testing has grown at 6.5%. So part of that is being driven by the added testing. If you look at the virus and how it's worked its way around the country, it started in the Northeast. Then we had a southern and western wave, and now it's in the Midwest. And what we have found looking at this virus and how it's spread and how the pandemic looks around the globe, everybody will get its wave. And we continue to hear about how do we flatten the curve. I think it's interesting, and I remind everybody, we've never once talked about getting rid of the curve. We've talked about flattening the curve. And that's an important one, because that means cases are going to be here. We're going to continue to see cases. And what we've continued to look at and monitor is really taking a look at hospitalizations and also taking a look at fatalities, of course. Those are the most important pieces of what we are looking at today. It's the clinical outcome that we're going to continue to focus on. And what we're finding right now is there is a varied appetite for travel and what that will look like, depending on where you were in the country. And I say this often, where you sat in the country will dictate how you see your risk appetite to continue to move, continue to explore, and continue to travel once again. What we're finding, and there are going to be pockets, the metro areas are going to recover very differently from a travel and hospitality standpoint than some of our resort areas. We're already seeing some really great leisure demand in our resort communities, with many of those resort communities selling out every weekend, but missing the group business, of course, midweek. And what you want to look at, and I talk about this often, is when you look at the resort communities, they need leisure and they need group. When we look at the metro areas, there's kind of 5 prongs that drive it. And those 5 prongs are going to be what is going to keep the metro areas a little bit lagging in this recovery versus some of the other areas of the country. So I think it's important that you kind of normalize the data as we continue to see data, realize that it's weighted towards some of those metro cities. So what am I talking about, the 5 prongs? When you look at the cities of New York, Chicago, DC, San Francisco, what's common with those areas? They need leisure. They definitely need group, and those two are consistent with our destination resort areas. But what they also require and demand specifically for their cities are citywide conventions, and those are quite large, and those probably won't be back until at least last half of the year. And then they also need business travel, and they need international. And we do know international is going to struggle. How are we going to open up flights? When are we going to open up flights? What does that look like is something that we're all still trying to figure out. So it's not quite clear, but that's going to make the metro areas lag just a little bit longer than what you're seeing in some of the resort communities. We are seeing business grow. We had a CVent report this week, and what I've started since this began was a weekly call with our members, a twice weekly call with clients to keep them updated on where are we in the COVID pandemic, what does that look like, what does it mean to policy. And CVent was reporting a large spike in meetings or in RFPs and sourcing that they saw in the month of September. And that was exciting. And it was really great news. Probably surprising to most is 53% of those leads were for 2020. So we do have a lot of business coming in for 2020 right now, smaller, of course. But when you look at the number of sourcing, we've seen the same data in our OWL-HI trends as well. We are seeing a lot of smaller meetings. And when I say smaller, they don't mean they're 10 or 15 people, but they're under 100. But we also are seeing signs for some of the larger meetings where they can be held. And candidly, the frustration has been with some of the different areas of the country as far as being so mixed in how we approach this. And I'm not talking about testing, and I'm not talking about that aspect of it. I'm talking about from our industry. You have some people putting caps on numbers. You have some people putting caps on density. And candidly, when we look at the numbers, I say this often, is anybody who's put a cap on the number, there's not a lot of logic to it. To say I can't have 50 people to gather at any time. We say this often, 50 people in a phone booth is crowded. 50 people in a 5,000 square foot ballroom isn't. We have already started to meet. At Alhi, we've met 3 times already. We've had meetings of 120 people here in Dallas, and it was a back to business experience that we were putting together, trying to show people what the path forward looks like. And we're following guidelines. The CDC has actually published extensive guidelines for events and mass gatherings and how you meet and what that looks like. And candidly, they're very well thought out. Social distancing, as you can imagine, is a large piece of the puzzle. But in addition to that, it's thinking about flow. It's thinking about how do we service food and beverage just a little bit differently. But we've experienced it. We had a meeting of 120 people. We had about 60 people down in Georgia for a leadership conference that included spa, golf, in addition to education. And candidly, they felt the same. They just look a little different. We all wore masks. We were conscious of our distance. And I'm happy to say that all the events have gone really, really well. I myself have been traveling since June 8th. I've taken 16 trips, traveling to our hotels that are open, understanding the protocols, looking at what this looks like moving forward. And I've gotten tested regularly and weekly. I've gotten tested with the tests that are the mouth swabs. I've gotten the nasal viral test. I've also had antibody tests, and I now understand all of those mechanisms. And the point I've made during that time frame is, again, I've traveled 16 times during that time frame to a variety of locations, Florida on numerous times, actually California on numerous times. I've gone to Mexico, I've gone to Arizona, I've gone to Chicago, I've come to DC. And the important part is that I've remained negative. And why do I say that? Is if you can follow protocol, it is safe to travel. I truly believe that you can do that. I truly believe you can put meetings on that are safe as well. We've shown it, and we're starting to see that across the board. Again, business travel is going to take a little more time. We need our friends in Washington to move legislation. There's safe harbor legislation that has been pushed as part of the bill that is still sitting on the floor. And that's an important piece of the puzzle, because that safe harbor, giving some type of limited protection for frivolous lawsuits, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, is really necessary for some of these businesses to get moving. But, overall, we're starting to see some momentum. We're starting to see pickup. We're very close to 1 million people through TSA throughput at the airports. And, at its trough, it was at about 96,000. So we have picked up very, very quickly over the last 90 days, and we're starting to see more momentum. Again, those pockets are driving it. You see a lot more momentum in the South. You can see, I just saw a report today, spending in the South is actually above the baseline and definitely leading the rest of the United States. And it is a little bit of a mixed bag between the South and the Midwest, and specifically the Northeast. And when I say where you've sat, it will dictate what your view looks like. Please understand that is not a criticism, it's the reality. The realities were very different depending on which part of the pandemic you experienced. And at the front part of the pandemic in March and April, the intensity of it, what it did to our hospital systems, that has not happened in the rest of the outbreaks. When we got to the South and the West, that's what was really different. And I think it was the piece that was quite alarming for everybody, because if that happened through the entire United States, it would have been devastating, and it didn't. It was very different. And the outbreaks have been very different across the US and even across the globe. I started this by talking about the added cases that we've seen in Europe. Please know that even though the cases are triple, for instance, in the UK, the fatalities they're seeing are 10% of the fatalities they saw back in March and April, with a third of the cases. So it's a different outbreak. And there's a variety of reasons that are driving that, but my frustration is the context is not always given to us when we're talking about the cases. You're testing more, you're testing a lot of asymptomatic people we didn't test earlier. So how do you normalize for that when you look at how do the cases compare? And you can't. What you can look at is hospitalizations and then fatalities, because those are the bad clinical outcomes that you would want to be avoiding. I do think the road is starting to pick up, though, and we're starting to see that. We've heard from some of our companies that are part of ALHI and part of our membership, and some of the larger independent hotel brands. They've told us they're starting to see business travel pick up. We're seeing movie production crews, starting to pick up on the West Coast, and in some of our hotels that are in Santa Monica, for instance, they're starting to see some of that business. And we are about to close a piece of business that is a traditional 3,000 person incentive that usually goes international. They decided to keep it domestic. Now, 3,000 people is a lot of people in this environment. But what they've ended up doing and what they've decided to do is they've taken the 3,000 people and they've broken them into 4 waves of 750. So instead of trying to bring that entire large group together, they're going to do it over 4 weeks. We're finding people being creative, wanting to move forward, and there definitely is a demand for people to meet face to face. I'm actually headed to Orlando actually this week, and what is interesting is that it's a Connect program. It's probably our largest industry program we'll have this year. And it's 1,000 people in person in Orlando. So it's going to be interesting to see, again, following protocol. Masks are going to be required. We had health checks that we had to complete before we've gotten there. So, I mean, there's a lot that is going on to make sure that we can do this in a safe environment. Social distancing will be a part of it. We'll be setting rooms with more than 6 feet separation for us to be in. And again, masks are going to be required through the entire thing. So there are ways to do it. We're starting to see people do it. I'm excited on where we're headed. I get asked all the time, we're starting to see some of this towards the end of the year. I think we'll see that continue to ramp up. I think January will still be very soft for us. I think February starts to get a little stronger. And then I think March gets even a little bit stronger. And what we're seeing right now is a lot of demand for April and Q2 and beyond. And I think that's going to be pretty much the norm. I would also anticipate, if you saw the announcements last week, Pfizer will probably have a vaccine in play. And that would be in play with a request for emergency use from the FDA by November. Really positive for us, and I think a positive outcome. The mentality, the psychology of having a vaccine will change it for us. I'm going to end it by saying one thing I've said often is I don't know when it's fully going to recover, but we do know there's a path forward. We're seeing people take that path. And we do know tomorrow will be a better day. So it continues to get better each day. Try to keep hope. Try to stay positive. I've shown a video often of Admiral McRaven, one of the best leadership speeches I've ever heard. But he had these 10 points on leadership, or things he learned as a Navy SEAL that you need to understand if you're going to change the world. But he talked about a uniform drill that they used to have, and they would always find something wrong with your uniform, and they would be forced to go into the surf, which in San Diego is quite cold, roll around in the sand until you were covered with sand on your wet uniform, and you would have to perform all exercises the rest of the day like that. He said the effect was known as a sugar cookie. And the message is quite simple. No matter how hard you prepare, no matter how hard you work, sometimes you're going to be a sugar cookie. You need to get over being a sugar cookie and start moving forward. It's my message to my team. It's my message to our industry, and it's my message to you. Let's start moving forward, and let's forget about being a sugar cookie, because 2020 was definitely that. I hope everybody has a great rest of the day, and I hope everybody has an outstanding 2020.